Roll call. There's a quorum. We have, just a note, Trustee Grundon is online, President Mansell is online, and I think that's it, right? So we'll declare a quorum. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I move to approve the agenda.
Any second?
Second.
She said second, but I couldn't hear. Your mic's not
I
on.
think you're muted. We heard you. We saw you mouth it, but
Your mic's not on.
Mhm.
Can you hear us, dear?
I can.
We can't hear you, Isha. Your mic must be muted. We can see your mouth.
oh,
Whoa,
I can
No.
hear her.
she's looking at by her mouth. That's by her
okay,
mouth.
we'll take it.
We'll take it.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve? the minutes of
Hello,
the
how can we
24th,
participate?
2024 meeting.
Wait a minute.
Yes,
We
we
may have it muted on this side. Let me take a look here.
I move to approve the minutes from the April 24th, 2024 meeting.
Oh, they can hear us.
Okay.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Any second?
Can't hear you either.
Yeah.
Betsy.
Hmm.
Do you know what I think it is?
What?
Hold on.
Might have to switch the speaker.
Hold on.
We have that.
I think I pushed this button earlier. Hello?
Hello.
Can they hear us now?
No, we can. Can you hear us?
I can hear
Yes, we
you.
can hear us. We can't hear them.
Can you say something
Say
again?
something.
Can you hear me now?
Mm,
Does it come through the owl?
At the
It
owl, I think.
should.
Mhm.
Here.
Just speak.
All right. Betsy, can you say something again?
Now can you hear me?
You are under a microphone. Can you do the same thing with the speaker component?
Oh.
Wherever you were in the drop down,
No, up there.
there, select a speaker.
Is that what she's trying to tell us?
Now can you hear me?
Yay! I'm not putting that in the minutes.
You had to change it to alter the owl?
So yes.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion to approve minutes in the April 24th, 2024 meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
There we go. All right. Public comments on the agenda items. Mr. Hummel, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, thank you. I'll keep this as 3 minutes. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay on Zoom? Cool, thank you very much. I'm here to speak about the encouraging continued discussion about the item 8, which has to do with the structure of committees and consideration for a process that would include something similar to a committee of the whole, and I'd like to share the reasons why. I've been to over 3 years, every meeting of the board, except 3, and many of the PLPIT meetings and so forth. And what I've been able to see are very hardworking board of trustee members who are in straitjackets for the most part, reacting and responding as opposed to having the time and the ability to think forwardly and having a plan of what we see as what's really important to the entire board. I thought that was the most important part of the strategy meeting. That Saturday strategy meeting was the invitation and encouragement to get more involved in a short and long-term kind of mindset, as well as being able to think about a plan that would carry us into the next several years. Some examples of kind of how we got stuck. Our TIF process for the last several years. We still haven't decided what we're going to do at the end of the official TIF kind of thing. We have an acquisition of people around the Necro Lake District that's been dormant in terms of discussion about what's the plan for integrating them into the community. There were several of those kind of things that just didn't have the time to do that with the current structure. 14 years, the 14 years of my full-time job was to do several things. One of them included organizational structure. And I became fully aware that the structure of an organization has added value to planning, or it can be, it can either be accretive or dilutive to planning. And I would contend that the size of the board here, we do get stuck in more a dilutive kind of thing to do long-term planning with our current structure. So I'm just here to encourage and invite you to continue that discussion about how you can get organized, how we can get organized to be able to do that. So that's my pitch. Here are a couple of examples of some analytics that would be helpful. I'm going to take it from the NEPCO Lake District thing. First, we have 2 standing committees with some board members and also citizen members. It's worked extremely well if you get the right people on board to do that, who can add value from their own perspective and experience. Second thing is, I had mentioned the assessed value of properties there. Those are hard figures. I've heard in the past that former administrators said that the municipality was embraced 80% of the Lake District. I don't know that for a fact. I will get that information to you because that was just a number that's thrown out there and been numbers that's thrown out there before. But I think that would be healthy to know how much of the lake does the Port Edwards consist of in terms of residents and land usage. So I will do that. But again, it's just something that we haven't even thought about. Either we've accepted a number that other numbers haven't been shown to be accurate or whatever. I just think those kind of numbers would be helpful to get. So I'm here to encourage and support, and anything I can do to be of service by continuing to be a citizen, I will gladly do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And there isn't anyone else on Zoom. All right, chairperson comments. I don't have any at this time. Agenda number 7 is discussion and possible action of the village website. I know we talked about this previously. Betsy, can I hand this one off to you to give a recap?
Dwayne, can you click OK?
She's muted. Oh, you
That was me.
No, I
You
mean,
don't wanna
so get
leave
rid of
Kids.
the- Okay,
How do I do that? Just
Hear
say
me?
leave?
Hang on one second. No, not leave. Hit okay.
cool, okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Betsy.
thank you.
Okay, nope. So a couple months ago, I brought up to update our website because it is kind of old and clunky and not generally user friendly. I was playing around with the NEPCO Lake District website and got a quote from them. I don't know if that quote is still good, however, at this point, because I know it had an expiration date. I tried to reach out to them again quickly. It was $2,500 last time. And that included the startup.
Cut out, Betsy, can you repeat that? How much?
What was that?
You're cutting out. How much money?
I believe the first one was 25.
You're
no.
free.
No.
2,500, Tiara is what she said.
Okay,
And so we need to have that discussion if we want to continue to explore that opportunity. I think it is beneficial that we do because ours is so not user friendly, and we can be able to, from my understanding from the conversation I had with the gentleman was, and Eric might be able to fill you guys in because he's sitting there how it works for NEPCO Lake District. I want to say that if we want to live stream our video.
You broke up.
You cut out.
YouTube page.
We're hearing about 20, 30, 50% of what you're saying.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Betsy. Can we call you? Or I don't know if that's here. We'll hear her. Oh, she's
you turn
totally.
on, or I should be able to hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna try to call her.
She has herself muted.
Well,
She
the
does
video,
not. She
the
did.
video was freezing too.
I think she's muted because I'm gonna call her and she doesn't want the feedback, would be my guess.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry.
I got a little closer.
over there.
I'll move back.
Okay, so what did you hear? What didn't you hear?
We heard $2,500. We heard that, it's the same, it's that Eric probably has some information because Nepco Lake uses it. And then I think you were trying to say something about streaming on the website, but that's when you cut out.
Yep, I believe that capability is you can stream on the website, and then that kind of holds all of your, like, the videos and the meetings and stuff like that. And again, it's just more user friendly. I think, oh God, what is happening? For the users themselves on both ends, the residents, let's say, and then like Kim and Diane and Ben use the website. And Eric, I guess, what is your biggest takeaway from the website? I know that you guys utilized that. How did that work? I guess, sorry if I can go off table, just because I keep cutting in and out, and I'm just hoping he can fill you in with some of those.
Yeah, so a couple of things that our members like. If you subscribe to, there's a place to subscribe on the website, and if you get a subscription piece, it automatically texts or sends out meeting notices and agenda items, so people can then go and get the detail from off the thing. And I think that that's a plus for citizens to have a push out like that. There's an opportunity to take immediate kind of feedback and surveys if you want to do that kind of thing. And it's very easy to use. It can track all your meetings and agenda items and attachments right on that. So if somebody wants to go look at that, they can do that. And so I'd invite you to go to nepcolakedistrict.com and check it out for yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
Madam Chairman, can I get, is there an ongoing cost to operating this?
There's an amount every year. I think we have it budgeted for, I don't know, $300-400. Now, there will be an ad to move your email addresses off the Wood County one to that. And you could keep pretty much the same.
Are we required by state statutes to keep through the government? Because right now it's through the county.
We are with Wood County right now, but that's a good question that we're talking about IT issues anyway. I think we can tie these together.
Yeah, that's part of IT.
Yeah. I do know the charge for us, because we were invited to use the Port Edwards email addresses from Wood County, that the cost of that was significantly reduced when we went to the website amount as well. So
Off the county to the website was a
correct.
reduction.
Plus what the county and our person who administrator of it was able to transfer all the former emails into the new one. And so you don't lose any of that history that would be really important to keep. But anyway, I'm not trying to influence you. I'm just kind of saying the best points we got.
Yeah, the website is one thing, which is good, but the email piece of that, I know the county's looking at that, which is another whole piece.
Correct.
But the question I have, is there any statutes that require public business to be kept in a certain domain?
I don't think so. It's just where you want to keep it. And basically where you keep it is your domain. We'd have to check that out. Is a good question. If you have to have one in a public domain, and Nepco Lake is considered a public domain. It really is.
Fine, but it's also, as a village board, I'm all about saving money, but we also got to meet the state requirements.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just telling you, it's a feature. The Nepco Lake District, by the way, is a form of government governed by state statute 33. So I would assume that it's worth checking. I'm just saying it's an option if you want to do that, and a cheaper option.
And we're looking at a cheaper option now in Wood County, going through through cloud, and I don't know if that might be the same thing you're
Outlook
looking at.
365. Outlook 365.
65 in the cloud, so it's a good question. They're coming, we're working on it. They're meeting today. They'll have some stuff coming shortly, so it's a
Sure.
good question.
We use
Then the
Microsoft
other-
365 as well.
Okay,
Sorry, the other piece was for the website too, like Eric said about the emails all being transferred over. They do that with the website as well. That's why it's so much more expensive. That initial startup cost that includes moving all of that stuff that we have saved on our current website over. And then he did say it does get lower throughout, like, year 2 gets a little bit lower, year 3 gets a little bit lower, and then there is just that maintenance fee after that. But that initial cost is with the startup and then the transfer of information. Now, it would be cheaper, significantly cheaper, if we just want to start brand new with a website and not move anything over and have our staff do that. But I think that, we can get a quote for both and we can just discuss the pros and cons of each, but the biggest thing is trying to find a budget. So,
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm just sitting here realizing we had talked about putting this on the agenda at our last meeting, and since then, we moved IT to FHR.
so we will be doing it tonight.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it was on when I went back and went through my minutes. We had said an agenda item for next time, not knowing where that would land. And since FHR moved, Dwayne, how do I kick this to FHR to say, let's put it on yours?
Basically, you had discussion night, and that you're gonna recommend in your minutes that this issue be transferred to
Okay.
FHR IT because it's gonna be done by
Is
resolution.
it official that the transfer of IT has taken place?
When you recommend this resolution tonight, take it to the next village board meeting and be official.
Okay, so as of the next board meeting, it's official with the declaration of this ordinance.
That's
change.
correct.
So right now, yes,
Okay.
it's not official, but.
By the time you get your next agenda
Thank you,
together,
Eric.
and of course, I'm getting information for IT for our next,
FHR meeting.
For the next FHR.
for FHR,
Okay.
so we'll have to have this discussion too.
Okay, so I'll put it in the minutes to transfer this over to FHR, both the website and the email piece as well.
Correct.
Okay,
And that's good because I'll try to get much information from Betsy and Eric, so we have some documentation that we can show the Finance and Human Resource IT Committee.
all right. Number 8, discussion and possible action updating ordinance 2.04. You'll see there's an A and a B. The first one has to do with updating the committee names to reflect moving IT to the FHR committee. If you go into in your packet 2.04, it's, to me, looks pretty simple when I reviewed it. Right now we've got, so if you look at 2.04 committees, it just lists them as Public Works Committee, Public Safety Committee, Parks and Rec Committee, and then Planning, Property, Legislative, and Information Technology Committee. And then E is Finance and Human Resource Committee. I think what we had at the last board meeting, there was a vote to agree to move IT to FHR. So I think this is really just, I don't know, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and moving information technology down to E. Yes.
I have drafted ordinance number 23, which I emailed to you, but I don't think you got a chance to see it. And basically, I don't,
I've got it
maybe
up in
Terry,
my email.
maybe Terry got a
Thank
chance to
you.
see it today or not, but I don't think so. It's very basic. It says Village Board of Port Edwards, Wisconsin ordains ordinance amendment section 22.01 D in parentheses and C in parentheses, changing standing committee structure. Whereas the Village of Port Edwards desires to amend the chapter 2 of the village code, and whereas the village board really recommended that section 2, same one, be amended their May 14, 20 regular meeting, now therefore resolved the following. We change it, the D becomes planning committee and legislative committee, and C becomes finance, human resources, and information technology committee. That's in this ordinance, and it'll do exactly what you want it to do. And this will be the official document that gets passed. And when at your point this time, you want to recommend ordinance number 23 to the next village board meeting for action. That'd be your motion.
I make a motion to recommend ordinance number 23 to the village board meeting on June 11th.
Correct.
So moved. Get a second?
You can do it.
Okay, I'll second.
It's actually the same thing you just said.
So moved.
You know, right.
All right. Any commentary? Or any discussion? Hearing none, we can go ahead and vote. If in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. As I'm saying that, I realized when we were struggling to hear people, I didn't have people vote on those first two.
No, we did not.
We couldn't hear anybody.
I was gonna mention that.
Betsy, do I need to go back and have people vote? That was when
Probably,
we,
yeah, you should, but.
all right, let's go back to number 3. We hadn't approved the agenda. Rick made the motion, Brendan seconded. Can we do a vote now that we can hear each other? So if you're, any discussion, if you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and for number 4 as well, approve minutes from the April 24th, 2024 meeting. Read a motion in a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you for that detour. All right, let's go back to number 8, section B. So continue discussion on the committee of a whole. Of course, we talked about this a little bit last month. The goal was to come back and bring pros and cons and kind of have a discussion to see if we wanted to move this forward or not. So does anyone want to comment?
I know you maybe not have got it today, but I did put a memorandum together, I think, for Betsy and my, just given thoughts on that type of portion of your structure. And basically, I did send an email off to you, and I think it was pretty lengthy. And the reason I went after it and went through it was we talked about also not having different formation of government on the administrator or even a portion. So, and off the record, just off the record, I since I made that comment at the last village board meeting, and the staff knew about what I presented, and a lot of them knew that I mentioned Ben's name on it. So Ben and I had a conversation last week and this week, just passing. And one of his concerns was that if he's being considered, or if it happens to be that he moves into that position, and it's all if, that's how he said it. He says, that discussion has occurred, but he did say, and he understood, he said the committee, a whole structure, would be advantageous for someone like him taking that portion over, though. I mean, so he didn't, I don't want to get the cart before the horse.
Right.
And I don't want to, I think it's that whatever you do with the administrator piece is really well follow how this committee whole may or may not want to go forward.
Okay.
So I think they're tied together.
Yep.
And basically this is something that it's on the finance administration committee's agenda, finance and HR, about the discussion of the administrative position and all the things they brought up at the last village board meeting. I was going to put together, I don't know, I was going to talk to Lon, I know it's on the other committee, how he wants to handle that, how he wants the discussions on it, open session, closed session, how, and there's a lot of alternatives that we discussed.
Sure.
I also know that, and I'm letting you folks know that I'm putting out a interim administrators newsletter is coming out shortly. And I felt that because I brought it up at the village board meeting, I think it'd be important that I start bringing up those alternatives to the citizens in my newsletter. I think transparency is good, and then that discussion, so that's one way of getting it out. So I've drafted that today. But I have, I gotta get it by the end of this week, so I was planning on doing that too, so it's kind of, I'm piggybacking on all what's going on.
I do have the memo up so that you guys can see it if you don't have it in front of you.
I have it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got-
It's on the screen too.
Okay.
I can kind of go through, basically, it talks about the administrative position and the chiefs and all the ones we have. And then I kind of go on, no matter what administrative process you're gonna follow. The committee structure, I think, needs to be amended, and that's what I'm saying verbally. The existing committee structure is, I think it's redundant, inefficient on staff, and lacks transparency because a lot of the stuff just gets out so shortly. And the citizens really don't get a chance to see around. The existing committee structure is really for a larger municipality, I'm very honest with you. And I work in different municipalities that all that committee structure is, you can see it in Wisconsin Rapids. I've seen it in other bigger communities. Port has a population of 1,800, which is it's like a township, really, size-wise. And they operate and manage their committee through the town board meetings. And they have a statutory planning commission or ad hoc committees. So it's really just, they do some, if you have a more active, I know that Saratoga or one of your larger townships will have this kind of structure so they can get everybody to talk about it. And then I have a definition of what a committee goal is. I took that out of the league magazine. And I do have the regional, I mentioned about a regional, 2 meetings a month. Elected officials only meet once a month. The public, existing members they have 3 meetings now or 4, depending on what you're on. That was the pros and cons. Staff meets twice then a month instead of redundancy of quite a few different meetings. I know some of those are pros and cons. And then I had a suggestion of how the committee as a whole may look. And I know you want to discuss all these items that are in committees. And there she's scrolling up the second page. And basically, I just took your committee structure and put them down as subjects. And basically, you'll have a sub that you all vote in I call it the cow, committee as a whole. You all vote on a committee as a whole. As a members, you vote on an item to move it forward to the village board. And you vote on an item to delay it or defer or move it, delay it too for more information. And a lot of some of the stuff, it is information for the staff reporting out on what they're doing. And we had other agendas that you just have a discussion. In other words, there's no action. Like you're about to use public safety, you get a report from the fire chief, you get a report from the police chief. That's a report. You're not acting on those. And basically you can have the same thing come out. So basically those are just subject with no action. You get the report out there, everybody gets it. And I'm gonna stop.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Thank you for all of this information. I've got a question about the operation of the committee as a whole.
Mhm.
If everybody on the board meets and you go through the different subsections or subsets, does the whole board vote on things that come up or just the committee members as assigned?
No, in this part, your committee members are gone, disappear. So the whole board voted on each one of these items.
Okay.
All 7 of them are forwarded to the village board for action, or all
So the
7.
whole board gets to hear all the information and make a decision on it.
To move it forward to the village board.
Yeah, okay,
And at the same time, then you have your citizens usually come to those meetings.
okay.
And they hear it at once, and then they don't like it. When they come to the next meeting, they can get some feedback too. That's why it's a little more transparent.
Yeah, with that answer to the question, my comment is, I think I like this committee as a whole idea. It allows everybody with all of their experiences to ask questions and hear it once. And I think it may save some time of going to committee, then comes out of the committee, back to the committee, out of the committee, back to the committee. And then everybody gets to make decisions because everybody has their own questions that are asked, their own experiences. They can ask the right questions and move it forward quicker, I feel, but I throw that out as a thought.
And the only reason I bring it up is I have been interim administrator where you have a committee as a whole. in one community for a short period of time. And we did have the community hall meeting. It's a little longer. It's longer in the front end because you're doing, it's called a working meeting. And you're doing a lot of the working stuff. When it comes into the village board meeting, action meetings, it pretty well goes pretty darn fast because you all heard it. You all made a recommendation. You could make a recommendation out when it comes to like a 4-3 vote of a recommendation. And you get it to the village board, it may be switched. That can happen on certain topics. And that's why it's not locked in concrete. It's a committee as a whole. It is a working committee, working all the issues that you're working on as a whole. Instead of having one committee work on, and then comes back and forth, like which I think Eric mentioned earlier. The main thing is when it gets to the village board as an action board, when they make a vote on that subject itself, they go fairly quickly. Except there might be one that says, I want to pull it. Then you use the agenda. What do you call it? Consent agenda? Because then really you got all the stuff that you talked about, and you can sit there and say, I want to pull 1 or 2, and the rest is go through because you're already hashed it all out and you had majority thinking.
Thank you for that information. Those were my thoughts.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I know committees go away. However, for example, I mean, I know Ben does a lot of the public works piece, right? The only thing we had talked about is, you know, in some of these committee, do we have a point person assigned at all, just so that, you know what so that way something, for example, the CRO that came out of police and fire, you know, is that assigned to someone? So if there's grant writing, or is that just figured out in the committee where someone says, yep, I'll take that on?
When you start bringing something up, it'll come up in the committee as a whole, and then you'll find someone champion it right there.
Okay.
And that person will then work with Ben or Diane, a minute, or whoever you want to do. You finally pick someone to champion it.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be that chair. It's someone may have like the interest in it, like Rick is talking about. I have interest in it. I know more about this. I'll work with so-and-so to make it work.
Okay.
Okay, I think that we need to define this very well, and if we're going to present it to the board. So we've got all of these questions thought through, and then answers to these questions, exactly what you're bringing up. So everybody, we can walk through the frequently asked questions as such.
Yeah.
Where I'm going, I think you should go too, is go to the league. It's very well detailed in the
Okay.
league's portion. That's why I took a piece out of it.
So you modeled this after the League of Municipalities?
Oh, yeah. Well, I modeled it basically. What happens is that because you have committee structures and you're so used to doing it, I broke it apart by subject in your committee as a whole agenda. When you have this is really weird. You have a committee as a whole, you break it apart this much, but this is just because they're trying to get your formality from moving from a committee to getting the topics out.
Okay.
And then I put them A, B, and C so you make sure you discuss a topic. If you notice, there is no motions in here. It's just a discussion and possible action. How do you put action? That's what you do. In other words, it means you discuss something and you may have action on it. Like you see now in your village board portion, you're real tied in. You're already, it's got to go to the committee, and before we can talk about it, it's got to have a motion on the agenda. I've never seen that. When we have a regular village board agenda in other communities, it comes out of committee and it says and then all it says discussion on it says discussion action. You don't create the motion. However, when you're in a committee as a whole, that's when you're creating that motion.
Mhm.
You say, and you guys all put input into it. So you actually say, well, we're going to recommend this to the village board. And you can talk more freely and say, well, I think the motion should this. And someone say, well, this is what I think it says. And you guys write. You have a lot of open discussion.
Would
It's committee as a whole. You keep asking.
That's another question. I'm sorry for all the questions.
No.
Would there be a significant change to the ordinances if we went to the whole?
Yes, you have to redraft your ordinance section, which is in that piece that is right now in subcommittee. And I've seen how other ones are drafted. I know you can pirate from other people.
Okay.
That's the term I use, pirate.
Hey, I'm just trying to think of all the logical steps.
Right.
If we do go this route, what do we have to know? And we should think of those
And
things.
like I said earlier, I think knowing what you're gonna do with the future, it's not just something you just can't do overnight on this piece. You gotta know how you're handling the whole organization, like Eric talked about the organizational structure, all the alternatives. Once you pick that out, then you can really talk about this item to be more detailed.
Which microphone is on? Who's getting feedback?
My phone is off, so I think it just
I
says
think, did you
feedback.
switch the microphone to the computer instead of that?
Where do I go? Up at top, mic up here. I'm looking.
We're getting intermittent
I
feedback.
know where we are. I think, I thought it was my voice.
You're on the echo, you're on the echo.
Yeah, so it's all going through the owl,
Okay, yep,
so.
okay.
Oh, no, I can't hear Betsy.
I muted both Tier and I to see if that would help. And then we just have to obviously unmute when we want to talk. Is it just like canny sound feedback or is it something specific?
Intermittent feedback of words that are like a second ago is what I'm picking up.
Okay.
It's quiet now.
I think there's maybe more questions besides Rick's, if anybody else got them.
Any other feedback?
Tara, Betsy, do you guys have feedback?
Might be. Oh. Go ahead,
Tier,
Tier.
do we have her muted?
Yeah, who muted it?
Betsy, did you mute Tiara, or is she?
She's got unmuted.
Somebody's muted, yeah, they're both muted.
Oh,
There we
Tiara,
go.
there. Okay.
I haven't had a chance, didn't have this before the meeting, so I don't have a lot. Some of the pro points potentially I see as also as challenges. As far as staff with meetings, I think that we can schedule our meetings in a way that limit them to 2 meetings a month. I don't see that as necessarily a benefit. I don't see, and again, I didn't have this before the meeting to look it over, but I don't see how the transparency will change either because we'd still be having 2 meetings, the same thing as committee meeting and then board meeting, where there would be that opportunity. And everybody and anybody can come to both the meetings. The thing that concerns me is long and inefficient meetings that we tend to find ourselves in. Like if we have a long meeting with a lot of material, we a lot of times don't get the materials ahead of time. That's a lot of material we're not prepared for. That worries me. And that's not any specific person. That's been over time. It's a constant challenge. Getting, for one reason or another, it's not any one person's responsibility and it's not any one person's fault. But the reality has been, for most of the time that I've been on the board, it's a problem getting the materials in enough time to understand, be able to navigate them and be well informed to make decisions. It would be concerning to me getting a large packet, not having all of it ahead of time, where right now it's broken down through the month. We used to get, packets with information more, but we haven't had that information dense stuff. But regardless, if we have big meetings on all of the committees at once, we have the potential for a lot of material that we have not been able to well prepare for. And I've seen it meeting after meeting where it's just kind of a head nod and people vote. And I think it's often without the opportunity to investigate, explore, research, all of that. That concerns me in the long meetings. So then in a long meeting like that, so if you get something affects the beginning of the meeting, that energy is carried across the board of all the department actions. You know, where, so I haven't had enough time to explore it and, you know, speak to other communities. Joe brought up exactly what I was thinking, Saratoga's meetings that go forever. That's not appealing. So I don't know if, I don't have enough information at this time to really have a solid opinion, but I'm leading towards not comfortable with it.
Okay, yep, Dwayne.
One of the things I didn't mention that other communities do is that you don't use the same order. Every meeting you change the order, so a department head who was there first is not always first and gone. For example, when you rotate the subject, not the committee, but the subject, what the committee's talking about, you rotate to the top. So therefore, when some members, they start learning when to show up, not show up, and you don't have to be sitting through a whole meeting. I'm talking about staff members now.
Staff members, yep.
And then the same thing is that you don't have one subject pulling all the air out of the room before you get to another one sometimes. Or what you do, if there is one that does have you know, it's got a lot of discussion, you make a motion to move that up front.
Okay.
So that gets most of the discussion.
Okay.
Yes,
Yep.
one more comment. Thank you for your feedback, Tara. That's good. And I haven't been on the board that long, so I will ask for input from people that have been. How much time is spent getting the board up to speed when something comes out of a committee? And how many times does it go back to committee? Because I hear you, Tara, and that your concerns are real concerns. But how many times does something come out of committee and then people are asking questions that aren't on the committee to try to fill them in? And how much time is that spent? I don't know.
I guess I'll answer that first, I guess, if you don't mind, Jen.
Go ahead.
'Cause that's one of my, sorry. That's one of the pro for me is everybody is at the table. Everybody hears the same information once. Everybody can give their feedback right away or ask their questions and get the same answer. Right now, what I've seen is, especially, let's just take the strategic planning meeting, for example, right? We were all invited to go. We all had the opportunity to go, but now we're bringing stuff back. And it's like we're on like rinse and repeat. And it's just, I think the benefit is to have everybody at the table. And it does, to me, it takes up a lot of time and it has wasted a lot of time going from committee to committee and then having to especially Dwayne or before Boz, re-explain it every single time it goes to the committee. And then for those, when it does get to the village board, we have to do it again, right? So I feel like that is a redundant, in a time waster, in my opinion. I would think that would be more efficient. And I understand Tara's point of long meetings and big packets, and I get that. But for me, and this is just, again, my perspective, I would much rather plan, okay, you know what, Tuesday night is my meeting night on the 2nd and the 4th. It's gonna be a long one, rather than 15-minute meeting here, half-hour meeting here, right? Trying to rearrange my schedule throughout every single week. Right, like that kind of is how I think of it. I'd rather have a meeting, and if it's everybody comes to the meeting prepared and does their research and looks ahead of time, it shouldn't be as long. And again, then we limit that repeating portion.
Thank you. Answer your question.
Tara,
I did,
Tara on stock.
sorry, Tara, were you gonna say something?
Okay. I think part of the thing, it's not always that we do have the benefit of the meetings. Like when I'm exercising, I'll be listening to a YouTube to catch up on what's gone on in other committees. But I think there's a lot of getting shuffled around and pushed out for external reasons. Every board member has every opportunity to look at the agendas, look at the minutes, listen to the meetings. But there's well, maybe we need to, explore this over here. Like maybe we need to talk to Nick, or maybe somebody needs to make a contact over there. So that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that it's run efficiently, because I don't believe it has at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that kind of stuff is not there are circumstances where there's reasons that we can't make decisions until this piece of information, or, somebody said, well, what about this? What did the insurance company say? What's the legal opinion? We get in the meeting, and as conversation and we explore options, more things happen that then, oh, maybe we should look at it this way. Okay, well, we maybe need to consider that and get those numbers, or how did it go in that committee, or how did it go in that community when they did this or that, where I think that there has been the benefit of that with the committees. It's been cuts both ways. It can be what holds us behind. It also can be where one issue, we have run over it in the committee, but we still want it to get to the board meeting. But there's this piece that we need to have explored, pushing it to FHR, where that new information is brought forward. That's happened a lot, and that can be efficient, where each of the committees have had, their time to take it. And then as time has allowed, we've still been able to get things in front of the board meeting by using that committee structure. We've done that on many occasions with public safety, with PIT, both referring to FHR for the final, okay, we had this missing piece of information. Let's get it to that committee so it can continue to be explored and come out of committee. So
Okay.
there was something else, but I don't remember what.
Okay, thanks, Sierra. I do want to add two pieces. So I had reached out to both Kim and Diane to get their input, and I'm just going to kind of condense this. So they both had feedback. So one of the things they said is there was a question of FHR, which we had talked about the last time, but saying, when would you hold that? You have to hold it before the board meeting, or you won't have bills to approve. It's difficult to have that turned around, et cetera. One of the things that came out of this is some feedback saying, the way the FHR committee was done years ago makes a lot of sense. The committee was made up of 2 members plus the president. It changed every 4 months, so all members of the board were involved. Helps for awareness of the budget, what money's being spent on, and that was held 30 minutes before the board meeting, so there wasn't an additional meeting to schedule. So I know Dwayne had kind of talked about that as an option too. So, and again, this was a comment saying, well, a fear is FHR. Dwayne had kind of addressed what would FHR look like, and that's exactly what he said, is it'd be right before the village board meeting. That's how you'd run FHR. So, when we're talking about 2 meetings a month, FHR might be another one that's right before that village board meeting for a half hour. The long nights is something that everybody's talking about. I tend to be more in the camp of, yep, it's going to be a long night, but we're all at the table and then we all know what's going on, because otherwise we've got people all over different nights. To me, I'd rather sit down, have everybody's expertise at the table. Maybe this is me being a newer member, but I feel like every time we sit in a committee and then we go to the board meeting, some of our veterans, Joe, Eric, Lon, Betsy, they come back and they say, well, what about this? What about this? And of course, we don't know what we don't know. And that's a great and helpful learning experience. But I think that's a lot of times where it's like, well, we didn't do that correctly, right? The most recent one was the therapy dog that came out of public safety, and it was like, you need to have a memorandum of understanding. You need to have at least $1 million coverage. You need to blah blah blah. You don't know these things unless you know, and some of that is, maybe we sometimes do need to be doing more research, but when you're around veterans and they know these things, that's how you learn. I understand that they're going to be long nights. I understand that it's going to be late. Right now with Dwayne, this probably doesn't work because you only get so many hours with us. And, if you're staying until midnight, so maybe this is something we look at as we kind of, as Dwayne walks away from the interim position and someone new comes in. One of the things I had commented on about things being stuck in committee for so long, I know, and I'm not saying that this was mismanaged at all, but for example, the Ripple Creek thing being stuck in committee. I mean, there was frustration about that because people kept seeing it, and I'm sure we all got phone calls saying what's going on, and they're saying, can't tell you, it's behind closed doors. And I do get that to a point, but I feel like that is one that I wish could have been out to everybody. So I know every board member can come to closed session. It's not going to happen because that's meetings. Again, we're saying it'd be a long night, but at the same time, board members aren't going to a whole bunch of meetings. Then there was residents not knowing when to attend a meeting. They'll never know what time or when things will be up for discussion. So that's something you had kind of talked about too. And then posting the agendas too. We're talking about really long agendas, so posting them becomes kind of a pain. I do think, we continually say we're not getting packets. We need packets earlier. We need this communication earlier. That's something that has to be fixed no matter what we do. So I don't want that to be a reason that we don't move forward. Tiara, I 100% agree with you. That is something we need to fix. I'm recognizing now, thank you to everybody who's previously chaired, this is more work than what I was doing before. And I'm recognizing I need to create timelines for myself, right? Like, yup, not proficient at this yet, working on it. But that's something we all need to do and reflect on and fix it versus being like, well, we can't move forward because we don't have good communication, right? Like, nope, we need to fix the communication and move forward. Again, more questions on, well, when would the board meeting be held? And FHR, that question, again, Kim and Diane both brought that up, which I think is astute of both of them. Obviously, that's a piece that has to be figured out. The lengthy meetings, again, which we've all kind of talked about. And then again, the idea that committees of a whole can be scheduled. So if we don't move to this, good learning lesson for me is if things get stuck in committee, just asking for that committee of a whole earlier. So things can be brought to light quicker. I mean, if you don't go to committee of a whole, then maybe that's something we need to start utilizing more often. And that was a quick summary of Kim and Diane. Both of them gave great commentary and, I think are open to discussion, but ultimately have a lot of questions before we move forward. And if we do move forward, I would really like to see both of those ladies and Ben involved in this because it won't work without their expertise and their buy-in too, right? We want this to be a key piece for them. Yeah.
May I have the floor?
Absolutely.
Okay, I agree with Tiara on the portion that you're not getting good packets, because I've seen it myself when I was here before, when you have more time. For any committee to have work done, they need the packet ahead of time before they walk in the door, like he's picked up to this time. And everything has been delivered just in time. And it's because people's time are being eaten up so much, but that happens to be one of the major structures, major issues, other communities too. They even have ordinance where you have to have it out in their hand by a certain date in ordinance. It's actually in our ordinance too. It's supposed to have it there a certain time for the village board. One of the things though that I've seen in other communities is correct. Just before the village board meets, the finance committee or the group of, or it could be it could be a whole board with your finance committee. They do meet ahead of time just before to make the final decisions on the bill run. The other thing I've seen too is that when you start looking at your bill run with other communities too, there is some standard ones that you have constantly that are standard that you can see portion of it, and the staff usually takes care of them, but if you just approve them. I've seen cases where they identify them and you just write off and you sign off and approve them, but at least by statute, by law, you have to have those invoices approved. So that's two. Second, I want to mention in your community as a whole, when you start meeting as a group and there's something that comes up and you say, well, okay, I think I like this, but I need some more information. It's when you then say, okay, let's move it forward to the village board subject to these information. Then staff's got 2 weeks and you got 2 weeks to get that, a week and a half to get that item nailed down.
Sure.
And to be honest with you, one of the hardest items I've had in other communities is working with your village attorney. Nothing against them, but they have other clients. If you want something to get on them, you can see my emails, you saw them, I'm usually on pretty hard on Nick. It's not because of Nick, the term we use ever since I've been in this business, send it to the village attorney or the county attorney or corporation counsel, goes to a dark hole. You really have to push those people to get your information out. One, you got to get them to feel that you're the primary client. And basically you pay more for that. But those are the things that you, if you're in a community, but if you're in a community as a whole and the subject comes up and it gets stuck or want more information, use that committee to say, okay, we can have, we want these answers. If we don't get these answers, we're not going to vote on them at the village board.
Okay. All right, so I want to keep us moving forward here. I guess my only question is, obviously, we are not ready for any action on the committee of the whole. But how do we want to fruitfully keep talking about this and move an idea forward? Or are we saying, no, not at this time? Rick?
We just lost them.
Uh-oh. Oh, there.
I think the plug came out.
I think what we need to do is organize it so it's well informed, so we can articulate it to the whole board. And then at least have an understanding of us all that we can explain it to the board in some good fashion. Because I think we need to continue to discuss it and organize our thoughts into some understanding of how we would organize it, so we can present it, if we choose to do so.
So is the goal for the next meeting to take Dwayne's document, use it as a working document, and maybe at this point, some of the questions we've had come up. So for example, what are you doing with FHR? That we could create like a frequently asked questions.
Yep.
Here's what we're seeing. Here's what the answers are, and kind of work through it that way, and then come back to the table.
Yes,
first.
yes, and even have those as discussion points.
Okay.
I mean, one that comes to my mind is if you move finance right before the board meeting, we just moved IT with that. So does IT stay there or go somewhere else?
Oh, gosh.
So I think, but we need to have these thought through at least as questions, and we can discuss them either internally in this committee or at the board. That's my thoughts.
My suggestion, I know she was trying to do notes at the same time run the meeting. I think if I could take your notes and get everybody's questions down, like you asked this question, I answered it, but though I answered just for you, I like to see those questions down. And then we have a question, here's the answer. We need to set up a question and answer internally with our committee, and also share it with other committee members, and before we can move forward.
I like that idea. May I speak? I'd like that idea. Who would be the central collection point for those thoughts and questions? Would it be Dwayne?
Okay.
It would be me, and
Okay.
it just doesn't need your help to start out off.
So, this is a mess. So when I do the minutes, I'll just send you that.
Right.
The only thing I want to remind everyone of, because I know I have to remind myself of this all the time, is, once you send that working document out, we can reply directly to you, but we can't reply to each other and have an ongoing discussion.
That's how I usually will do it too.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so that'll be the plan for next time. I'll put together minutes, and then I guess for everybody else, if there are questions you didn't ask or things that come up during this, if you could send them over to Dwayne,
Yes.
and then we can either work on those next time, or if you have answers, you can fill them in, but then we can kind of review that document and go from there. And I guess we'll see what works,
The other thing is that, if you have time, and a lot of times you don't, it just kind of go to the league website, see a portions of it. And if you have any relationship with any other community, some people, like, I know Rapids has their committee structure. And I know when I was in Mount Horeb, they had this type of structure. But what I gave you was agenda, which is a big, long agenda for the community as a whole. I would put a completely different, but a basic subject. It's not by committee, but it's a little different. Anyway, we'll work on it. And I also, it's very important, though, I think that you've got to do this in hand with the finance administration committee of how you're going to restructure the administrative spot, because I think it ties with that quite heavily.
Yep, I would agree.
So I think I'm gonna let Lon know our discussions here too.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think who's on its finance committee of you three?
I'm not.
Tiara, are you?
Tiara, are you on FHR? She is.
That's good. She'll give, that's I'm looking for that link
Okay.
for discussion.
All right, we're gonna move on to number 9, any old business.
Not for me.
Number 10, any new business? Dwayne, did you have no updates yet from Heartland?
Yes, Heartland, I can give you, I sent out an email to them, indicated what our decision, the village board decision was, and it went silent. So I didn't get anything back from them. I think
Okay.
they understood, I was very professional saying we did this and we're not going to move forward with it. Thank you very much for taking it, working
Okay.
with us, but I didn't get anything back, which I expected.
Okay,
And then the other thing is, I can't think of any correspondence pertaining to this group here, property committee. I do want to bring something up as property I think you should, and I don't want to put your agenda too full. And it kind of ties with, we have open lands that the village owns. And we have also in our master plan, we have lands that have been identified for future growth. I have not seen planning commission talk about that, anybody talk about that, and I know we still got planning here. And basically, there's some lands I think we should just at least identify and start having that going.
so are you suggesting that for future agenda items?
Yes, but I'm not just future agenda. I just want to let you know as future agenda items that we need to. I need to pull some stuff together, but I believe you may have comment on too.
Well, I would like to know what the village owns, so
Yeah.
it would grow into.
That's where we're gonna start.
economic Development.
That's where I start with.
Okay, so we're skipping all over. Number 12, any correspondence, anybody?
I have none.
Okay, so future agenda items. I know Ben was going to have something for next meeting. I'll check back in with him. I think it was tied into some of the ordinance issues out there maybe. So
That may make sense. You talked to me too.
yeah, so I think Ben's gonna have a few things. We're gonna come back again to the committee as a whole idea and just see where we're at there. And then so Rick and Dwayne, you're hoping to see, would you be ready by next month to, what does the village own?
I've looked at some of it already. I looked at some already, and we need, it's really easy to do on your website. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, with the purpose of looking at some economic development
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
Love that. And at some point, I mean, I know with like NEPCO, obviously economic development is a discussion too. Do you want to pair anything in with that next month as well?
We can, and I'm only thinking about it is yes, we have lands we own out there too, so I'm gonna bring that into the,
Okay,
yeah, and that's something that's been through a development agreement. We didn't do anything with it, but that's some lands that we can talk about.
okay, so.
That's
Fort
part of
and-
your- that's
Fort
part of
and
village.
NEPCO, and I know that's part of it.
It's
but
part of
just-
village, and
at least
that's one of the
I'd like
sites had
to-
the back of my mind.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's being included, basically. I know you're with us too, but I want to at least put it out there that it should be on there. Okay, anything else here, Betsy? Any thoughts? All right, next meeting date?
Yeah, I gotta get that
Can
going.
can we go back to Wednesday? So-
Yes, I have senior dessert tomorrow night, so that's.
I
why I said-
understand this move, but because it matches up with my other committee.
Sure. So we'd be looking at the week of the 17th.
Of June?
Is it June 19th that you think you'd be meeting?
I think so. You try to be, yeah, the 19th would work.
And I'm not constrained at all by work in the summer, so time is open.
So 6:19, 4:30, is that what we're hearing?
Does that work for you, Tier?
Nope, she says 5.
5?
I can't get before 5.
Okay, that's fine. Pick a time.
So on the 19th,
5?
all right.
I just gotta start changing my days I'm here.
Because then we just have to move the public safety after that, which is.
Or they may be able to go, well,
I don't
I
think
don't
they'll,
know.
I don't think they'll move.
What time is ours?
Joe has that. He's pretty well set in their days.
What time do they normally meet?
Public safety is
Wednesdays.
4:30, so we could go 5:30. Why don't we do 5:30? If they're set, public safety is 4:30, so we could go
Okay,
5:30.
so you wanna, yeah, that's at least an hour meeting, right? So you
Oh,
go
yeah.
5:30 PM?
Yep, that works. That work, Tiara?
Yeah,
Okay,
Perfect.
Thank you.
so June 19th at 5:30 PM is our next meeting date. All right, without any objection, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting at 6:04 PM.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Betsy,